I never thought I'd be the guy to find himself in this situation, the husband betrayed, the guy who thought he had a solid marriage. But here I am, posting this, hoping to put my feelings into words and maybe get some advice from people who have been through something similar. My name's Ryan, and I've been married to Jenna for 6 years. We met at a mutual friend's party, and I was instantly drawn to her. She had this magnetic energy, funny, charming, and always the center of attention. I was a little shy back then, but she made me feel like I was the only person in the room. We got married a couple of years later, and honestly, I thought we were doing great. However, things started to shift about 6 months ago. At first, it was subtle. Jenna began working late more often, claiming she was busy with her new job at a marketing firm. I get it. Her career was taking off, and I supported her completely. But then I noticed little things. Her phone was always face down, and she started taking calls in another room. When I'd ask her about her day, she'd give me vague answers, and the intimacy we once shared felt like it was fading. One Friday night, I had plans to meet with some friends, but Jenna suddenly said she had to stay late for a team-building event. It was strange because she never mentioned this before. I shrugged it off, thinking she was just busy. But then I got this nagging feeling like something wasn't right. The real turning point came when I accidentally stumbled across a series of texts on her phone. I was just trying to send her a quick message because I wanted to let her know I'd be home in an hour. I grabbed her phone off the counter, and as I glanced at the screen, I saw a message from a guy named Mark. My heart sank when I read the words, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I knew I should have put the phone down and walked away, but the urge to find out more was overwhelming. So I scrolled through the conversation. There were flirty texts back and forth, and it wasn't just innocent banter. It was clear that they were seeing each other. My hands were shaking as I pieced it all together. Jenna was cheating on me. Once the shock settled in, I felt anger bubbling up. I went from 0 to 100 in seconds. I needed to confront her, but I wanted to wait until I had all the evidence. That night, I pretended everything was normal when she got home, even though my heart was racing. I wanted to see how she acted if she'd give anything away. The next few days were torture. I was on high alert, watching her every move, and I felt like a stranger in my own home. I finally mustered the courage to confront her that following Sunday. We were sitting in the living room, the air thick with tension. I took a deep breath and asked her outright if there was someone else. Jenna's face went pale. At first, she tried to deny it, saying I was being paranoid. But I pressed her, my voice shaky with emotion as I confronted her about the texts. I pulled out my phone and showed her the evidence. Instead of the remorse I expected, she went on a defensive tirade. "You're overreacting, Ryan. It's just a stupid joke. You're so insecure." I sat there, stunned. How could she twist it around like that? I felt my heart shatter as she continued to deflect blame and tell me I was the problem. Her excuses were infuriating, and I could feel my blood boiling. It was like she didn't care that she had broken my trust, my heart. As the confrontation unfolded, I felt every emotion: anger, sadness, disbelief, and a deep sense of betrayal. My mind raced with memories of our life together, the laughter we shared, the dreams we built. It all felt so hollow now. I wanted to scream at her, to unleash all the hurt she'd caused, but I held back. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me lose my composure. Eventually, I walked out of the room, needing space to process everything. I went to the gym, but I couldn't focus. I was surrounded by people, yet I felt so alone. I needed to figure out how to move forward from this, but I was lost in a haze of confusion and hurt. What do I do now? Do I even want to try to salvage this marriage? My heart ached for the life I thought we had, but beneath all the pain, a fire started to burn within me. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I needed a plan, something to take back control of my life. And that's where I started thinking about revenge, to be continued. After that confrontation, I spent a lot of time pacing around my apartment, wrestling with my thoughts. I felt like I was on a roller coaster of emotions. One moment I was furious, and the next I was heartbroken. It was exhausting. The betrayal stung, and I knew I had to do something to reclaim my dignity and self-worth. The initial shock of Jenna's infidelity made me question everything. I couldn't believe I had been so blind. I replayed every moment of our life together, searching for signs I might have missed. There were so many little moments I had brushed off, the times she would come home late, or the times she'd mentioned meetings that didn't quite add up. It was like I was living in a fog, and now everything was crystal clear. Amidst that confusion, a thought began to take shape: revenge. I wanted to make Jenna realize the weight of her choices. It wasn't about being cruel. It was about ensuring she understood the consequences of her actions. The idea of her showing up at a club and finding herself unwelcome sent a rush of adrenaline through me. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her continue living her life as if nothing had happened. So, I decided to open my own nightclub. It might sound drastic, but I had been working in event management for years, and I had a good sense of what people wanted in a nightlife experience. I knew the ins and outs of the business and had connections with suppliers and promoters. With a mix of anger and determination, I began laying the groundwork. I secured a small venue downtown, prime real estate for a club. I spent countless sleepless nights designing the space, curating the atmosphere, and planning events. I wanted this place to be a hit, and I worked tirelessly to ensure it was everything I envisioned. Every time I saw the progress, it fueled my motivation. But it wasn't just about the club. I wanted to create an environment that would exclude Jenna. I knew she had her favorites in the nightlife scene, the promoters and the club goers who frequented the places she loved. So I made sure to reach out to everyone I could. I networked, made connections, and ensured Jenna would not be on any guest list. In the back of my mind, I played through the scenarios of her finding out about my club. I imagined the look on her face when she realized she was unwelcome in a space I created. The thought brought me a twisted sense of satisfaction. I wanted her to feel the sting of her choices, to realize that she couldn't just walk away from what we had. As the grand opening approached, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I threw myself into the preparations, focusing on every detail. I wanted this night to be perfect. I hired a talented DJ, curated an excellent drink menu, and even arranged a few surprise performances. My heart raced as the day drew closer, and every night I would lay in bed, excited for the moment I could finally put my plan into action. The night of the opening finally arrived, and the energy in the club was electric. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I greeted guests, making sure everything was running smoothly. I watched the dance floor fill up, and the sound of laughter and music surrounded me. It felt like a dream. But what I was really waiting for was to see if Jenna would show up. I had heard whispers from mutual friends that she was planning to come. It made my heart race with nervousness. Would she try to walk in like she owned the place? I wanted to be there to witness the moment she realized she wasn't welcome. As the night went on, I felt an intoxicating mix of excitement and dread. I was halfway through my third drink when I spotted her at the entrance, dressed to the nines, the same carefree smile on her face that had attracted me all those years ago. She looked gorgeous, but I felt a wave of anger wash over me at the sight of her. I had to remind myself of why I was doing this. I leaned against the bar, watching as she approached the door, but instead of walking in without a care, she hesitated briefly, scanning the room. When she saw the crowd, her expression shifted from excitement to confusion. I could see her processing the situation, and I felt a thrill of adrenaline course through me. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. Jenna stepped up to the bouncer, a confident look on her face, but the bouncer shook his head. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see her frustration rising. Jenna pushed back, gesturing wildly, trying to convince him she was supposed to be there. But it wasn't working. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction as I watched her face drain of color, realizing she wasn't going to gain entrance. The bouncer pointed toward me, and I could see Jenna's eyes widen as she turned to look in my direction. I stood there, a mix of emotions surging through me: victory, anger, and an odd sense of pain. She looked lost, and for a second I felt a pang of sympathy. But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, and the hurt she had caused me. I had to remind myself that this was her choice, not mine. As she walked away, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I had taken control of my life in a way I never thought possible. But even amidst that victory, I knew I had a lot to process. The club was my new beginning, but the ghost of our relationship lingered. To be continued. Watching Jenna get turned away from my club felt surreal. I had envisioned that moment countless times in my mind, but seeing it unfold in reality was a different beast altogether. I thought I would feel only triumph, yet there was a heaviness in my chest that I hadn't anticipated. As the night progressed, I tried to bury those feelings under the pulse of the music and the energy of the crowd. I mingled with guests, laughing and enjoying the success of my opening night. But every now and then I caught myself glancing toward the entrance, half expecting Jenna to come storming back in, demanding to be let in. But she never did. Instead, I noticed her standing a few blocks down, talking animatedly to Mark, the guy she had been texting. They looked cozy, almost intimate, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. It was infuriating to see her act like nothing had happened, to see her casually chatting with the person who had pulled her away from me. I tried to shake off the image, but it lingered in my mind like a dark cloud. In the days that followed, I threw myself into running the club. I was determined to make it a hotspot, and I knew that meant working hard and making connections. I stayed late, organized events, and focused on building a team I could trust. But even in those busy moments, my mind was often drawn back to Jenna. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, and it gnawed at me like a persistent itch. One evening, about a week after the opening, I found myself at the bar after closing time, nursing a drink and staring into my glass. My friend Alex, who had come to help me set up, noticed my mood and slid onto the stool next to me. "You okay, man? You've been a bit out of it lately," he said, concern etched on his face. "Yeah, just thinking," I replied, forcing a smile. "About Jenna?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I knew I couldn't avoid it forever, but talking about her still felt like a minefield. "Yeah," I admitted, my voice low. "I mean, I opened the club to move on, but I can't help but think about what she's doing and who she's with. It's like every time I see a couple together, I'm reminded of her with him." Alex nodded, understanding. "You know, it's normal to feel that way, but you've got to focus on yourself, man. You're building something great here. You can't let her take that away from you." His words resonated with me, and I took a deep breath, trying to push the thoughts of Jenna out of my mind. But that night, as I lay in bed, I found myself wrestling with memories again. I thought about our best moments, the late-night talks, our shared dreams, the joy of our wedding day. It was hard to reconcile those memories with the harsh reality of her betrayal. The days turned into weeks, and I tried to adapt to my new routine. The club was thriving, drawing crowds that I had only dreamed about. I felt a sense of pride in what I had created, and for a while, I felt like I was reclaiming my life. But just when I thought I had it all figured out, Jenna made her presence known again. One Friday night, I was busy managing the crowd when I spotted her walking in, her aura commanding attention. I felt my heart race, but this time, it wasn't out of excitement. It was a jolt of anger. She was wearing a stunning dress, clearly out to impress someone, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of possessiveness wash over me. I watched as she strolled towards the bar, confidently engaging with my staff, laughing and flirting with the patrons. It struck me how easily she slipped back into that persona, like nothing had happened between us. My jaw clenched as I tried to keep my composure. I couldn't let her see how much she affected me. She had made her choice, and now I was living with the consequences. But I couldn't stand the thought of her mingling with the crowd, enjoying herself while I was left to deal with the fallout of her decisions. I decided to confront her, to put an end to this charade. I made my way through the throng of people, and as I approached her, I felt a mix of fear and determination. "Jenna," I said, forcing her attention away from the guy she was chatting with. Her eyes widened momentarily, surprise evident on her face. "Ryan, wow, this place is amazing. I didn't know you'd be here." She feigned enthusiasm, but I could see the flicker of discomfort behind her smile. "Yeah, well, it's mine now," I said sharply, keeping my voice steady. "What are you doing here? I thought you'd be too busy with Mark." Her expression shifted, and I could tell I had struck a nerve. "I'm here with friends," she defended, her tone defensive. "I can go wherever I want. You don't own this place." I own this place and I'm not welcoming you here, I said, my voice low but firm. You don't get to waltz back into my life after what you did. You made your choice, so just leave. I felt the weight of my words hang in the air, and for a moment it was silent except for the music pulsing in the background. Jenna looked taken aback, and a flicker of anger crossed her face. You think you can just erase me because you opened a club? You're being ridiculous. Ridiculous. I shot back, my anger boiling over. You've betrayed our marriage and now you want to act like everything is fine. It's not. You're not welcome here. With that, I turned on my heel and walked away, my heart pounding. I had done it. I had stood up for myself. But as I moved through the crowd, I could still feel her eyes on me, and a part of me wondered if I had gone too far. Deep down, I knew I was trying to reclaim my life, but it felt like I was opening old wounds instead of healing them, to be continued. After that confrontation with Jenna, I felt a rush of adrenaline mixed with a sense of liberation. I had stood my ground, and for the first time since discovering her affair, I felt like I was taking control of my life. But that feeling was short-lived. As I continued managing the club, the reality of the situation began to settle back in. Jenna was still a part of my world, and no amount of bravado could change that. The following days were a roller coaster. I was busy with the club and business was booming, but I kept replaying our argument in my head, questioning whether I had been too harsh. I could still see the shock in her eyes, but I quickly reminded myself of the hurt she had caused me. I had every right to feel angry, and yet the thought of her being with Mark gnawed at me. Then came the night it all hit a boiling point. I was hosting a special event at the club, a themed night that had drawn a large crowd. The energy was electric and I was in my element, moving from table to table, chatting with guests, and ensuring everything was running smoothly. I needed to keep my focus on making this night a success, but as the hours wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jenna would show up again. Sure enough, around midnight, I spotted her walking in, this time with a group of friends. My heart sank. She looked radiant, laughing and flipping her hair as if she owned the place. It took everything in me not to lose my cool. I watched her from a distance, trying to remind myself that I was in control, that this wasn't going to affect me. But it did. I felt anger bubbling up again, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could contain it. As she flitted from group to group, I noticed how people were drawn to her. I felt a mix of resentment and sadness rise in me. I couldn't help but think about the person I fell in love with, the woman who had pledged her life to me. Now here she was, thriving in a world I had created but wanted no part of her anymore. It didn't take long before my instincts kicked in, and I decided I had to confront her again. I wasn't going to let her enjoy herself in my space without addressing the elephant in the room. I made my way through the throngs of people, my heart pounding with each step. When I reached her, I cleared my throat loudly, catching her attention. She turned, surprise flickering across her face, but it quickly morphed into that all-too-familiar defiance. "Ryan, what do you want?" she quipped, trying to brush me off as if I were just an annoyance. "I want to talk," I said, my voice steady but firm. "You have no business being here tonight pretending everything is fine." Her laughter was sharp and she crossed her arms. "You can't control where I go, Ryan. I'm not afraid of you or this club. I can come here if I want." "It's not about controlling you," I shot back. "It's about respect. You disrespected our marriage and now you're flaunting yourself around here like nothing happened. Do you even care how this looks to me?" "I'm living my life," Jenna replied, her tone dismissive. "You need to get over yourself. I'm not going to hide away because you opened this place." "Hide away? This isn't about hiding. It's about understanding the consequences of your actions," I said, frustration boiling over. "You can't just walk in here acting like nothing happened. You hurt me, and I'm not going to just stand by and let you enjoy yourself while I'm the one left to pick up the pieces." The tension was palpable, and for a moment the noise of the club faded into the background. I could see the hurt in her eyes, the vulnerability she tried to mask with anger, but I had no sympathy left for her. "Ryan, you're being unreasonable," she said, her voice wavering slightly. "You can't keep punishing me for a mistake I made. It was a moment of weakness. We can work through this." "Work through this?" I echoed incredulously. "You think I can just forget about what you did? You betrayed me with someone else. You have no idea how much that hurts." She opened her mouth as if to respond, but I cut her off. "I don't want to hear your excuses, Jenna. You made your choice and I've moved on. I've created a life for myself here, but your presence feels like a poison. I can't keep doing this." She looked taken aback, and for a split second I saw a flicker of regret cross her features, but the defiance returned quickly. "You can't just erase me from your life, Ryan. I'm not going anywhere." "Maybe I'll have to make you," I said, my tone colder than I intended. "If you can't respect my space, then I'll make sure you never walk in here." Again, her face flushed with anger, and then she snapped back. "You think you can control me, Ryan? I'm not scared of your petty attempts at revenge. I'll go wherever I want." I stood my ground, but deep down I felt a pang of uncertainty. Was this really how I wanted to handle things? I didn't want to turn into a person fueled by revenge and bitterness. But at the same time, I was tired of being the one who was hurt. With emotions running wild, I turned away from her, needing space to breathe. I couldn't let her see the cracks in my resolve. I returned to the bar, pouring myself a drink to calm my nerves. The music pulsed around me, but my mind was racing. After a few moments, I spotted Alex approaching me, concern etched on his face. "Hey man, you good? I saw you talking to Jenna. What happened?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not good, Alex. She doesn't get it. She thinks she can just come back into my life without facing any consequences. I'm tired of being the one who's hurt." "Look, I get it," he said, sympathetic. "But you can't let her dictate your emotions. You've built something amazing here. Focus on what you can control, not what she's doing." His words resonated with me, but the emotional toll was starting to weigh heavy on my heart. I looked around at the bustling club, filled with laughing faces and dancing bodies, and I realized that while I was thriving professionally, emotionally, I was still in turmoil. I had to make a choice. I could either continue down this path of resentment and revenge, or I could find a way to heal and reclaim my life fully, free from Jenna's shadow. To be continued. After that tense confrontation with Jenna, I felt like I had reached a crossroads in my life. I was caught between the satisfaction of standing my ground and the overwhelming weight of unresolved feelings. I didn't want to be trapped in this cycle of anger and hurt anymore. I had built something incredible with my club, but I couldn't truly appreciate it while I was still hung up on my past. In the days that followed, I poured myself into work even more. I spent late nights at the club, building relationships with my staff and patrons and planning exciting events. I wanted to create an environment that was welcoming and vibrant, a place where people could escape and enjoy themselves. But every time I heard laughter or saw couples dancing, my mind would drift back to Jenna, twisting the knife of betrayal deeper. One evening, after a particularly successful night, I sat at the bar, feeling overwhelmed. The club was bustling, but I felt isolated. My friend Alex joined me, sensing my mood. "You're doing an amazing job here, Ryan," he said, trying to lift my spirits. "The place is packed. You should be proud." "I know I should be," I replied, forcing a smile. "But it's hard to enjoy it when I'm constantly reminded of her." "Have you thought about talking to someone, like a therapist?" he suggested, looking genuinely concerned. "You don't have to go through this alone." The idea had crossed my mind, but I'd brushed it off, thinking I could handle things myself. But as I sat there, I realized he was right. I couldn't keep suppressing my feelings. I needed to process everything. The betrayal, the hurt, and even the anger. So I agreed to give it a shot. I found a therapist named Dr. Harper who specialized in relationship issues. Walking into her office felt intimidating, like I was opening up a can of worms I wasn't sure I could handle. But Dr. Harper had a calm, understanding demeanor that put me at ease. After a few sessions, I began to open up about my feelings of betrayal and loss. It was during one of these sessions that I started to realize how much I had been holding on to. I spoke about the moments leading up to Jenna's affair, the doubts I had ignored, and the signs I had missed. Dr. Harper encouraged me to explore the root of my feelings, why I felt the need to seek revenge, and how it was affecting my self-worth. Through our conversations, I began to uncover layers of my own insecurities. I had always been the nice guy, the one who tried to keep the peace. But now, I saw the value in standing up for myself and setting boundaries. I began to understand that I didn't need to define my self-worth based on Jenna's choices. As I continued my therapy sessions, my perspective started to shift. I began to focus on healing rather than revenge. I still wanted Jenna to realize the consequences of her actions, but I didn't want to be the person who let that anger consume me. I wanted to reclaim my life on my own terms, without being tied down by resentment. Meanwhile, my club flourished. I organized various events, from themed parties to live performances, and it became a local hotspot. The more I invested in my passion, the more I found joy in it. My staff became like a second family, and I relished the vibrant energy we created together. I was no longer just a guy nursing a broken heart. I was a successful entrepreneur making my mark. But Jenna didn't disappear from my mind. Weeks after our last encounter, she reached out to me again. I received a text one afternoon, and my heart raced as I read her words. "Can we talk? I'd like to apologize for everything." Part of me wanted to dismiss her, to ignore her message and move on with my life. But there was another part of me that was curious. I had spent so much time feeling anger and hurt, but what if this was an opportunity for closure? It was a risk, but I decided to respond, agreeing to meet in a neutral place. When the day arrived, I found myself in a small cafe, nerves fluttering in my stomach. I hadn't seen her in weeks, and I wasn't sure what to expect. When she walked in, I was struck by how different she looked. Gone was the carefree demeanor. She seemed more subdued, almost vulnerable. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "I know this is awkward." "Yeah, it is," I replied honestly, trying to gauge her intentions. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she continued. "I want to apologize for everything, my choices, the way I treated you. I was selfish, and I want you to know that I deeply regret it." I studied her face, searching for sincerity. "Do you really? Because it didn't seem that way when you were with Mark." She winced at the mention of his name. "I understand why you'd feel that way. I was in a dark place, and I didn't handle things well, but I've been working on myself too. I've been seeing a therapist and trying to understand why I made those choices." I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and even a glimmer of hope. "I appreciate you saying that, but it doesn't change what you did to me, Jenna. I was blindsided by your betrayal." "I know," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "I can't take it back, but I want you to know that I've changed. I miss what we had, and I'd like a chance to start over, even if it's just as friends." "Friends," I echoed. "That's a lot to ask after everything." "I get that," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm not asking for a second chance right away. I just want to prove to you that I've grown and that I can be someone you can trust again." I felt a flood of emotions, confusion, anger, and a flicker of hope. The thought of rekindling any sort of relationship felt complicated, but I also knew that I had grown too. I had taken steps to heal and reclaim my life, and I was no longer the man who would settle for less than I deserved. "I'm not sure what the future holds for us, Jenna," I finally said, "but I'm open to seeing where things go. Just know that it will take time to rebuild any trust." "I understand," she said, relief washing over her face. "I'm willing to wait. I just hope we can move forward, whether it's together or apart." As we sat there, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. This conversation didn't magically fix everything, but it opened a door that I thought was permanently closed. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I realized I had the power to choose my path. With my club thriving and my heart beginning to heal, I knew I was ready to face whatever came next. Whether that included Jenna or not, I was determined to reclaim my life and embrace the future. To be continued. In the weeks that followed my conversation with Jenna, I found myself navigating uncharted waters. The initial awkwardness of reconnecting was palpable, but I tried to approach it with an open mind. We kept our meetings casual, grabbing coffee or lunch, and slowly I began to see glimpses of the person I once loved. Jenna was actively working on herself, and it was evident in our conversations. She talked about her therapy sessions, how she was learning to confront her impulses and understand the patterns that led her to betray me. I listened, cautiously optimistic, but I also held on to the lessons I had learned during our time apart. I wasn't going to rush into anything. I had taken my time to heal and I wasn't about to throw it away. At the same time, my club continued to prosper. It had become a staple in the local nightlife scene, and I was proud of what I had built. I poured my heart into it, creating a space where people could gather, connect, and escape the chaos of life. I hosted themed nights, live performances, and even charity events. Each success on that front reminded me that I was capable of creating something beautiful, regardless of the personal turmoil I had faced. But as Jenna and I started to rebuild our friendship, I couldn't ignore the complicated feelings brewing within me. Every time we laughed together or reminisced about happier times, the old spark would flicker. I found myself grappling with the idea of whether it was possible to rekindle our relationship or if some bridges were meant to remain burned. One evening, as I was closing up the club, Jenna stopped by to check on me. She had a radiant smile, one that made my heart skip a beat, but I also felt a pang of fear. I didn't want to fall back into the same patterns that had led to our downfall. "Hey, you," she said, leaning against the bar. "I came to see how things were going. The club looks amazing, by the way." "Thanks, Jenna, it's been a labor of love," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. But honestly, it wouldn't have been possible without the support of my friends and team. She nodded, her expression earnest. "I'm really proud of you. You've turned this place into something incredible." "Thanks," I said, feeling the warmth of her words. "But I want to make sure you understand what we're trying to do here. This is my passion, and I'm not looking to complicate things again." "I get that," she replied, her eyes searching mine. "I don't want to rush anything. I just want you to know that I'm here to support you, no matter what that looks like." As the conversation continued, the tension began to dissipate, and we talked about everything from life goals to silly memories. But I could feel an undercurrent of unresolved emotions bubbling beneath the surface. When she laughed, it reminded me of why I fell in love with her in the first place. But then, the reality of her past choices would flood back in, and I felt torn. A few weeks later, I decided to host a reunion night at the club, inviting old friends, colleagues, and even some of Jenna's friends. It felt like a celebration of new beginnings and the relationships we were rebuilding. The energy in the club was electric, laughter ringing out as old faces reunited. But as I watched Jenna mingle with the crowd, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of a cliff. As the night wore on, I found myself at the bar, watching her dance with friends. I felt a sense of pride, but also a flicker of regret. The atmosphere was light, but I was overwhelmed by everything that had happened. It was an emotional night, and I knew I had to confront my feelings head-on. Jenna joined me at the bar, her cheeks flushed from dancing. "This night is amazing, Ryan. Everyone is having such a great time," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Yeah, it feels good to see everyone together again," I replied, but I could feel the weight of my thoughts pressing down on me. "Listen, can we talk for a second?" "Of course," she said, curiosity evident on her face. I led her to a quieter corner of the club, the sounds of laughter and music fading into the background. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I started, my heart racing. "About us, about everything. It's been great reconnecting, but I need to know what you want moving forward." Jenna shifted slightly, her expression serious. "I've thought about that too. I want to make things right. I know I messed up, and I don't expect you to just forgive me and forget. But I want a chance to show you that I've changed. I miss you, Ryan. I miss us." Her words struck a chord in me, and for a moment I felt a rush of hope. But then the memories of pain flooded back. "It's not that simple, Jenna. I can't just pretend it didn't happen. You hurt me deeply, and I'm still processing that." "I know," she replied softly, her eyes welling up. "And I'm so sorry. I wish I could take it back. But I'm here now, and I want to prove to you that I can be better." I searched her eyes, looking for sincerity. I felt the old familiarity tugging at my heart, but I wasn't ready to let go of the lessons I had learned. "It's going to take time, Jenna. I can't rush into anything. I've built a life for myself, and I won't jeopardize my happiness again." "I understand," she said, taking a deep breath. "I'll wait as long as it takes. Just know that I'm here for you, and I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me." Her honesty struck me. It would be easy to slip back into the comfort of our past, but I knew I had to tread carefully. "I appreciate that, I really do. Let's take it slow and see where it goes, but I need to focus on myself first." As the night wore on, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I wasn't ready for a romantic relationship yet, but I could see a glimmer of hope for a new kind of connection with Jenna, one built on trust and understanding, rather than the hurt that had once defined us. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I felt more equipped to handle whatever came next. I had learned the importance of self-worth and the strength that comes from healing. My club had become a sanctuary for not just escapism, but also for growth and renewal. As I watched Jenna laugh and reconnect with others, I felt a sense of peace. I was moving forward, not just for myself, but for the possibility of a future, whatever that may look like. I was ready for the next chapter, and I knew that whatever happened, I would be okay. In the end, it was a journey of rediscovery, not only of love and friendship, but also of self-acceptance. Life was unpredictable, but I was finally in control, ready to embrace the future with an open heart.